Hello, it's Mike Rush here at Pharmacy Career Coach, and I had the opportunity to sit down with a variety of our industry coaches and mentors and talk to them further about some of the biggest tips they have if you're looking to make it into industry. So take a moment, watch this, and enjoy.
Yeah, the first one I would probably say is don't get fixated on the salary. The ceiling for a pharmacist in the industry, wherever it could be an astronomical number. And although, you may have to take some sacrifices and some pay cuts from what you were making in retail or hospital to kind of just at least break in, you'll quickly rise the ranks. And I think a lot of people get fixated on that and they're thinking more on the short term versus the long term. And that I think would be the number one thing. The other thing is just kind of being able to focus on something that you want to do. There's so many different departments within the pharmaceutical industry, and the career path is there, but a lot of times if you want to move from one department to another department to another department, it's going to be somewhat lateral before you can kind of go up. So if kind of based on that first thing that I mentioned, you want to sort of focus on some things early on, and the only way you can do that is by talking with people both about what they do in their career as well as their lifestyle, and then also just doing some research on your own to seeing what would fit your personality. So I would say those two tips. And then the third tip is just don't shy away from anything. When I first went into clinical trials, I hated being in lab in school, and I thought the clinical trials was going to be about that. And so there was a bit of hesitancy in the beginning before I accepted that role. But then I got in there and I was realizing that, hey, I'm actually not doing any lab work, but I'm managing these huge vendors out there that have 3,000, 5,000 patients in India, Spain, France, all these places all over the place. And, it's one of those things that you don't shy away from anything without even giving it a try, and just, you never know what you're going to like.
In industry, well, I would probably put it this way: know what you want or don't want. Look at the skills that you have. I'm not talking about experience. Experience is one thing. People are look at how long longitudinally you've been in a role and doing something, but what are your skills? And particularly, what are your transferable work skills? I was just dealing with a colleague recently, just left retail, and his retail is an absolute entire life, 24 years. They had a very difficult time even doing spreadsheets, Word, because in certain jobs, they'll ask you, can you do Microsoft Office Suite? A lot of people, when you get stuck in retail or certain jobs, you don't utilize those. You find yourself at 50 years old, 45 years old, and you don't know how to use, you're not proficient in them anyway. So really understand that in those type of skills, if you're not proficient in those, go online. There are plenty of things in some of the other sites, LinkedIn, Microsoft, learn those skills and learn that. Because if you're going to jump to industry, you've got to be proficient in that whole Office suite as a whole. And then really start taking a look at your transferable work skills and what they are. If they're clinical, and that's what you want to use and not lose, find a company that mimics your experience. If you've been an infectious disease pharmacist, or you've been in cardiology or in the ICUs, those are type of companies and products you want to go for. And let's just say you're thinking about changing a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, you're getting a little itchy. If you do not have a targeted area, if you've just been a generalist, either start targeting yourself somewhere, maybe be that antibiotic surveillance pharmacist in your organization. And if you can't do something like that, or be that pharmacist up in oncology and round up there, if you're talking about just a general community-based hospital. And if you can't be, then you really need to find a bigger company, just not throwing names up like a Pfizer. They have a lot of gen med type products. Go after someone that it's an MSL role that's more general medicine, maybe diabetes, but otherwise find your niche, your specialty niche, and then try to target the company that does that. And if you don't, start creating yourself a niche a year or two in advance so you can say, I've worked as that infectious disease pharmacist in my hospital.
Well, I would say that the biggest tip is really to continue to persevere. It's a challenging road. It is not easy opportunity where you can just apply usually and get the opportunity in your first get-go. It usually takes several attempts, a lot of practice, a lot of coaching, a lot of motivation. And sometimes it's okay to take a break and come back and try again in a little bit. But it's important to always remember that if this is your goal and you'd like to achieve this, to always continue to persevere and stay motivated, because it is possible and it is achievable. You just got to work for it.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest tips, I think, and it's worked for me, is just reaching out and, and networking, right? Because for me, I didn't have any industry experience. I did have a drug information experience, but what I think really helped me get an industry job was actually just reaching out to people and med information at companies that I wanted to work with and just asking them and learning about what they do every day, right? And then being able to understand when I read a job description, what those job descriptions mean, because a lot of the times you read and you're like, this doesn't even make sense to me. It's just because you haven't been in that role and you don't understand what it's saying. So you can't translate or you can't position your experiences to align with what's being described in those job positions. But the fact of it is that pharmacists are well versed in medical information, and we do know how to distill information and share it with the general public. And so that's the biggest thing. I think networking and learning about the job. I think a second tip would be just being open-minded. Just being open-minded to different types of roles that you can use your pharmacist skills in, because I think a lot of the time we funnel ourselves and we have tunnel vision and we're thinking retail, we're thinking clinical, but we don't step outside and say, okay, what can I do with my skill set instead of a particular role?
I hope you enjoyed that short video and learned a lot along the way. And if you're a pharmacist, whether you're just starting, you're mid-career, or you're a seasoned pharmacist looking to make your way into industry or advance within your career within industry, we'd love to invite you to set up a free consultation with our team. We'd love to hear more about your goals, about your job search, and potentially how we can help you get to that next stage in your career. Thank you again so much, and I hope you have a great day.